Knowing how to use Microsoft Word to create hanging indents can save you tons of time and tons of frustration too, especially if you are trying to format your bibliographic entries in your works cited or reference page. A hanging indent, also called a hanging paragraph, is when the first line of your paragraph starts at your left margin, with each subsequent line indented about 5 spaces. This is used a lot in bibliographies, and it's called a hanging indent because it looks like the first line is anchored to the margin with the rest of the lines hanging off of it. Now, before I show you how to create a bibliographic entry in Word using hanging indents, it's helpful to know how to show your paragraph markers in your ruler and change your line spacing. And then actually making the hanging indent is pretty easy. When you show the paragraph markers, you can see where your hard returns are, which is when you pressed Enter on your keyboard, as well as any soft returns you may have pressed Control Enter. Now don't worry if you don't know what a soft return is or why you might use it, and you may not even have any, but you could have some in there because you did something by accident. And you'll also be able to see where you hit the space bar, your spaces, and your tabs. Now to show your paragraph markers, you'll go to the Home tab on the ribbon, and in the Paragraph group, you'll toggle the Show Paragraph Markers on and off by clicking on the icon that looks like, what else? A paragraph marker, kind of like a backwards P. And this will show you where your paragraphs end when you hit a hard return or you hit your Enter key. Any soft returns, that's that Control Enter, the spaces between your words, and your tabs. Another way to toggle the paragraph markers on and off is to use a keyboard shortcut, which in this case is Control-Shift**, all keys held down simultaneously. Now let's look at how this works very quickly. What you should see here is something that looks like if you printed it out, it would look like this. We want to know, however, what's going on behind the scenes, because oftentimes when you're working with a document, particularly if you're working with an outline or bibliographic information, if you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, you will end up trying to fix everything manually. And the key point is that you want to use Wordwrap. So up at the top, first thing we want to do is make sure that you can see the ribbon. I have my ribbon showing, but I could also hide my ribbon, or what they call minimize my ribbon. If you go up to the upper right hand corner and you see the little, it looks like a carrot or part of the head of an arrow pointing up, if you click that, it will minimize the ribbon so you can't see it, and if you click it again, it will expand the ribbon. We want to see the ribbon. You want to go to the Home tab, and then in the Paragraph group you want to click Show the Paragraph Markers. And now all of a sudden you see a lot of dots on your page, you see some arrows, and you see those paragraph markers, which are the hard returns. And you will also see sometimes a soft return, and that's that little arrow that looks a little bent and points to the left. The advantage of seeing all this, in particular the spaces, is sometimes you have a couple of extra spaces in between words, and it would be helpful to know that in advance so that you could take them out. And once you've taken them out, then everything looks much better. Now let me scroll down to this paragraph. Now I'll take off these Show Paragraph markers, and you can see that it looks just fine the way it is. But behind the scenes, it's important to know what's going on. For example, let's say that we decided we wanted to add some words into this paragraph. We have many times people don't, let's say, think, they, and all of a sudden everything got all messed up here. And what people will often do is they'll have to sit here and play around with it this way. Well, the better way to do it is to click on the Show Paragraph Markers and then just get rid of all the hard returns. And now when you turn it on and off, so let's say we put it back on, don't think they want to know how, and everything moves just fine. The second thing that is important, let's put those on again, is you can see up here that they spaced in instead, and down here lower you can see somebody did this a lot, where they ended up using a hard return and then they spaced in and then they put another return. It just can get all messed up at this point. So knowing where those are is really helpful because you can play around with it. Now let's look at showing your ruler as it may be hidden. You'll want to go to the ribbon, and then on the View tab in the Show section you want to click the box that says Ruler. That's it. And you can hide the ruler by unclicking the box. And there's a keyboard shortcut to toggle the ruler on or off. Press Alt-V as in Victor, both keys simultaneously, and then press L. And this will toggle that ruler on and off. Now why would you want to see the ruler? Because this is where you control which part of your paragraph moves, which is necessary for making hanging indents. You'll want to pay attention to the part of the ruler that looks like two triangles touching at their apices. Apices is plural for apex. The apex is the top part of the triangle. And you'll also want to pay attention to the small rectangle at the bottom. The top triangle controls the first line, the lower triangle controls the rest of the lines in the paragraph, and the rectangle controls all the lines in the paragraph. So let's see how this works. We're back at this document and we want to look at this top line right now. First thing we want to do is turn the ruler on. So we can go to View and we can click Ruler, and all of a sudden the ruler shows up at the top. We're looking at this paragraph, which is the first paragraph at the top of the page, and we're going to go up here to where those two triangles and the rectangles are. If you hover your cursor over the top triangle, it says first line indent, and that does exactly what it says it does, indents the first line. So if you press your mouse and pull it over, the first line gets indented. If you press it again and pull it back over, then it gets unindented. And of course you can move it anywhere you want on the page, and that first line does exactly what this first triangle or the top triangle does. Now let's go to the second triangle, the bottom triangle that is pointing up. The apex is pointing up. That is, in this case it says the hanging indent. The bottom one you saw says left indent. We'll get to that in a moment. So you grab this second triangle, the bottom triangle, and you can move that over, and it does what you want it to do to the subsequent lines in the paragraph. So we're going to move it back over just for the heck of it here, and now we're going to pull on the left indent. Now when you pull that over, it pulls both the top triangle, which controls what the first line of the paragraph is doing, and the bottom triangle, which controls what the second, third, fourth, etc. lines are doing. So when you pull that over, the entire thing goes over. So let's look at this a little differently. Now we're on this line, and let's say that you have it indented as a hanging indent, but you want it to go over more, but you want the whole thing to go over more. You would pull the left indent and it would pull both parts over. Now this is going to be extremely helpful when you work with bibliographies, but also could be helpful if you're working with outlines. You also need to know how to change the line spacing in your paragraphs, how to easily change a single space paragraph to a double space paragraph, or a double space paragraph to a single space paragraph. First, you need to select the paragraph or paragraphs you want to change. You have to highlight it all, and then go to the Home tab on the ribbon. And in the paragraph group where you found the Show Paragraph icon, click the line and paragraph spacing icon. If you can't figure out which one it is, hover your cursor over the icons until its description shows up. And when you click it, you'll have all kinds of options for paragraph spacing. And yes, there's a keyboard shortcut for this too. For single spacing, use Control 1. Again, you press both the Control key and the 1 key at the same time. And for double spacing, you use Control 2. So let's see how this works. So we're going to show and hide the paragraph and ruler. You already saw that one. Select a paragraph, change the spacing from single space to double space, clean up your spacing errors, and then make a hanging indent. Here we are on the beginnings of a works cited page, and you can see that there's some things that we need to clean up here. First thing though, we want to put the paragraph markers on. So we'll come up here, we'll put our paragraph markers on. The next thing we want to do is put our ruler on. So go to View and put our ruler on, and our ruler shows up at the top. Now we're going to play around with this. First thing I want to do is, it's kind of combining a couple things. We're going to do some cleanup, and we're going to take out these extra spaces, and we're going to take out this hard carriage return here. So now we have everything already set up in terms of what it looks like on the page. Now I don't know about you, but I don't like to see the hyperlink here exactly like that. So all you have to do to remove the hyperlink is right click on it, and then where it says remove hyperlink, it goes away. Now be careful however, because if you add a space afterwards, it adds the hyperlink back. So you want to get it all the way you want first, and then go ahead and remove the hyperlink. So you can also see that there's an extra space. We don't like that space there, and you can look around and see, oh, here's some other spaces. So we're cleaning some things up as we go here. We're going to remove this hyperlink as well, and we go ahead and take that out there, take that extra space out. So you can clean it up. You'll notice there's an extra space between John and the title of the article, so we're going to eliminate that space as well. So we've done a little bit of cleanup here, and now what we want to do is change the spacing from single to double space. So you highlight everything that you want to double space, come up to the home, and then you're going to come over here to the line and paragraph spacing. And again, if you hover over it, it will tell you. All you have to do is click on it and everything is now double spaced. Now this has a hanging indent here, but let's say we want to make this one here a hanging indent. And the easiest way to do that is highlight the whole thing, come up to the top, and remember the top triangle manages the top line of the paragraph, the first line of the paragraph. That's not what we want to do. So we'll bring that back here, and we want to grab this triangle, the bottom triangle, and pull that over, and now everything is a hanging indent. Now you know a lot of things that should make creating a bibliography easier for you. You know how to show and hide the paragraph markers, which will help you figure out what's going on behind the scenes. You know how to show and hide the ruler, change the paragraph spacing, and all of those together should help make creating your hanging indent much easier.